This is Recruiter Roundtable number 43, MPC, marketing and business development and everything in between. We got our usual suspects and some newbies here as well, so we're going to get started on that. So does anybody want to ask a question about MPC marketing? Does anybody want to give a suggestion about MPC marketing, or did I throw myself into the wind where I got to talk now?
You got to talk now.
Okay, so I started out marketing in MPC October 1997. Roofing project manager named Mike Bedavenga, who wanted to move to Phoenix, Arizona. Hey, Zach, I took his resume, I called him on the phone, I interviewed him, and then my management recruiter boss told me how to write a presentation, and I got a book out, Roofing Contractors in Phoenix, Arizona, and I called every single one and said, hi, my name's Tom Alashio. I just interviewed this great guy, blah, blah, blah. When would you like to interview him? Tomorrow at 2, Wednesday at 4. And that's how I started. I pounded the phones doing a presentation on a most placeable candidate that probably would not be considered a most placeable candidate today because he wanted to move from Chicago to Phoenix, and convinced some, actually got people to interview him. You know, my presentation was okay for a bartender turned recruiter in 1997. But the point of it was that I didn't stop, right? And somebody had asked in one of the groups, you know, how do you block your day out? So when I started as a recruiter, it was 50 phone calls before lunch, 50 phone calls after lunch, marketing this MPC. I would work on any job order anybody gave me, right? I worked on some ridiculous job orders in the beginning, landscape people, paint coatings, all kind of crazy stuff, right? I actually wrote a retainer with Sika Sarnafil 4 or 5 weeks into my job. My boss helped me write it. We didn't make any placements at that, but we did get a $5,000 retainer we got to keep. But the thing was is that I wouldn't stop. I just kept pounding the phones, no matter what anybody said. I just took that presentation and I kept going forward. And then whenever I got a job order, I'd work on it. So, and then blocking my day from there was, do you remember and I go off on tangents, sorry guys. You remember the commercial, the Prel commercial? I used Prel, I told 2 friends, they told 2 friends, they told 2 friends. Like, that's how I looked at my desk, right? So I got, you know, I'm marketing an MPC and roofing. I start getting some job orders to work on. Now half my day is spent marketing in the morning, and then I'm working on those stupid jobs that I got, right? And then I'm working on this stupid job, and I find another MPC. So every day at 4 o'clock, I plan for an hour, new MPC calls, right? Now, instead of Mike Bedavenga moving to Phoenix, it was Lewis Williamson, who was a detailer that was in Phoenix, but wanted to switch jobs. So now I'm calling all steel fabricators in Phoenix, right? And that's all I did.
What year was that?
1997.
Okay, so that's why you were texting.
Yeah, no text, no nothing, right? So you're just pounding the phones, trying to develop relationships, and that became like I keep getting better and better, right? So I got better at my presentations. I got better at selling a candidate. I got better at recruiting. I got better at recognizing what an MPC looked like, but that never stopped, right? Go ahead, Ernie.
What's the process? Okay, you're on the phone. You find a candidate. You want to MPC them, and how do you know that's the right candidate to MPC?
I mean, I was told it was in the beginning, and then you just, as you grow in your industry, you're going to find who's everybody hiring, right? Like, so let's take my industry, for example, structural engineering, right? Everybody wants a structural engineer with 3 to 5 years experience in their PE, or just about to get their PE. So if you get a guy like that, right, you're working on a search for one of your clients, and you come across the candidate that says, you know, Tom, that's 2 hours from my house, but I'm here in Richmond, and I've been thinking about making a job change. I would love to leave this company. I just don't want anybody to find out. And you know, do you have anything else? And you go, well, no, but I can find you something, right? Okay. So then you talk to that candidate on the phone, and you fully interview him. Features and benefits. We talk about that. What have you done at your current company? What makes you so good? What could you do to hit the ground running? Help me sell you, right? Help me sell why you're such a good candidate for these other engineering firms out there, right? You got to get the candidate involved in that. And once you do that, you have your pitch, and it's that same thing. I'm going to call 50 engineering managers in Richmond and say, hey, I got, you know, we're doing a search for XYZ Corporation, found a guy 2 hours away.
Wait, so right there. How do you find the 15 companies?
15 what?
company.
So that's again easy now, hard that way. Back then, it's the legwork. It's what we do. You go into Sales Navigator, right, and you put in engineering manager, director of engineering, partner, president, vice president of engineering, right, in a 30-mile radius of Richmond or 30-mile radius of the guy's zip code, right, and then structural engineering firm or civil engineering firm or paint manufacturer, whatever it is. Right. So you want to, the kid wants to be in a 30-mile radius of his house in Richmond. You're going to do a 30-mile radius of Richmond and find all the structural engineering firms in that area. Find who the engineering manager is, Navigator, LinkedIn Recruiter. They're all there, right? LinkedIn aggregates everything. Whether it's in LinkedIn Recruiter, OG LinkedIn, LinkedIn Navigator, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
You can search for hiring by title. Go ahead, Ernie.
So now you've found your list of people you're going to call. What do you do next? You're in LinkedIn. You've got their names.
So I'm going to use SalesQL which is a email phone lookup system, and I'm going to take that, and I'm helping Mike do this right now, who's on the call. Is we're going to grab all the people, all the hiring managers. We're going to use SalesQL or Artemis or ZoomInfo or Apollo, it doesn't matter, and you're going to find the phone number and the email for the guy, and you're going to put it in a CSV, and you're going to put it into your applicant tracking system. If it's Loxo, if it's Prelate, whatever, and now you have your list of 50 hiring authorities or hiring managers or vice presidents, whatever you want to call them, in Richmond that are decision makers. That's the key. Decision makers at their company that are involved in hiring structural engineers, bottle washers, mechanics, whatever it is. And then you're going to call them. You're going to say, hi, my name is Tom Alascio. And you're going to pitch your candidate to them in hopes that there's five, wait, real quick, Ernie, there's five objectives from that call, right? You want to get your candidate. 1 second, Shelly, after Ernie. Oh, you're going to get the candidate sent out. You're going to get a job order or an alternate job order, right? Like, hey, I'm not good. We need a PE with 10 years experience, right? You're going to fact find. Do you use recruiters? Do you pay fees? You're going to recruit him, right? If we don't have any openings, but how about you? Would you make a job change, right? You're going to connect with him on LinkedIn, and you're going to ask him if he knows of any other companies hiring, the divisions. Have you got a call by any other recruiters, right? Like, there's so much you can get out of one phone call talking to a hiring manager. If he's good, if he likes you and you guys start talking, it's like, well, I'm sorry, Zach, we don't have any openings. Well, I understand that. What about you? Would you consider a change? Haha. He may say, well, you know what? Actually, I've been thinking about moving to Denver. Boom. Now you got a new MPC. Or have you got called by recruiters lately? Any other? Yeah, I heard XYZ Corporation was looking for engineers. They called me mistakenly, not knowing when I was a manager. Boom. That's a job lead. Do you have any divisions that are hiring right now? Well, our mechanical engineering division is dying right now. They need 3. Who do I talk to over there? Oh, talk to Ernie Moreno. He's our director of engineering. Right? Every phone call you can get so much information from, and don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to stay on the call. So go ahead, Ernie, and then we'll go to you.
No, I would say I waive my time to the distinguished Senator Cassandra.
Cassandra, go ahead. What were you going to ask?
Are you following up with an email as well, or are you just pounding the phones, leaving voicemails, getting connected with people via phone?
I will leave. So if I'm marketing an MPC or doing a marketing call, and this thing goes for recruit calls, goes for all my calls, I won't leave a voicemail or send an email or anything until I've tried a couple times, right? If I'm trying to market an MPC and I got to get a hold of Ernie Moreno, the mechanical engineering manager, and I've called twice. Try to figure out from the secretary, hey, how do I get a hold of them? What's a good time to call them? Try to focus on that. If as a last resort, yes, I will leave a voicemail. Hey, I got a great candidate. He's wonderful and great. Give me a call. I may send him a LinkedIn messaging. Maybe even send him an email. On the candidate side, I kind of flip back and forth on sending a LinkedIn connection request sometimes before I even call. Versus when I'm talking to them, I'll send it right as we're talking. Hey, by the way, I know this is a good opportunity for you right now. I'm going to keep you in my system, and I'll send you a LinkedIn request right now so we can talk. So that's kind of a back and forth. But on the MPC side, I think it's really important to get a hold of the person and try to pitch your candidate or pitch your wares or whatever pitch you're using so you can talk to them, right? And if you can't, leave a message. If you got a great candidate, right, leave a message, send an email, whatever. But I think the most important thing is to start out with thinking, I'm not going to stop until I get a hold of this guy. Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Can't hear you, Tom.
Sorry about that.
There we go.
I'm assuming you're getting a candidate's approval. That he or she knows that you're doing this. You're, marketing them
I would say
to.
95% of the time, there are people who will say you can make up one or you can use one you already have. And again, this falls back into, you could market someone without letting them know. Sorry, I was letting Melanie in. You can market someone that they don't know you're marketing them, but you got to be cognizant of the fact you can't release any of their information. You can't send out and that's a big thing. Like, people are like, oh, why don't you just delete the name off of it and send an email, which is a stupid. We can get into that. That's fucking retarded. Sorry. So what I think the most important thing to remember is that you're trying to develop a relationship, and most likely you're not going to place that MPC. The reason you have that MPC is so you can talk to the hiring manager and then flip the call to, hey, what sounds like the guy that I called you about isn't going to fit the position you have open. What are you doing to fill it now? And then go into a job order, right? Because the chances of you actually having such a good, perfect candidate that you can place him for a fee it happens, but it's rare. Usually happens when you market an MPC back into an industry you've been working for, like me, for 20 years, right? If an engineer called me tomorrow and says, hey, Tom, I need to move to Chicago, I could probably place him because I know my industry really well, right? But starting out or developing new business or just trying to expand your desk, the chances you place in that MPC are rare. The idea is it's an opener to get you on the phone, to develop a relationship, to start a conversation into another job order, another division, another opening, and fact find and get information. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're not going.
To answer your question, it doesn't matter if the guy has if he knows we are doing it or not. It helps, right? If you got a guy that's like, Tom, I really want to make a change. I really want to move to Massanutten, and
the whole thing is more as they would call it. If you were at Costco, it's a loss leader. It's like you're using it to start a conversation.
Exactly. Now I will give. Go ahead, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, but there are times when you may create an imaginary person.
I won't. I have not done that in a very long time. What I do now, and I call this my presumptive opening. In my industry right now, there is a 2% unemployment rate. And for you recruiters watching it, go ahead and come on in. We have plenty of jobs. There's like a 2% unemployment rate, right? So I will do the assumptive opening. I will say, hi, Tom. This is Tom Alascio. You and I never spoken before. I'm a headhunter. I specialize in the structural engineering field. We just got done a search for Willett Engineering in Atlanta. And while we were doing that search, we heard you guys a couple times were looking for a structural engineer as well. Reason for my call is A, to see if that is a true fact, and B, if it is, can we help you fill that? So in my industry, when you have a low unemployment rate and tons of openings, doing that, whether it's a lie or not, you can call me out on that, is a good way to start a conversation. It gives you instant credibility. You work in his industry. You were just helping fill a position with his direct competitor or indirect competitor, and you know what the hell's going on. Yeah, Ernie, go ahead.
So, and excuse me, guys, if I talk too much, but I want to, so what I hear you saying is to do an MPC, you identify a candidate, let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. You then figure out the parameters of that candidate, where they want to go.
Is he marketable? Is he or she marketable? And if someone, here's what you have to think about yourself, and don't kid yourself, right? Don't kid yourself. Is someone going to pay a $20,000 fee for that guy or gal? So think about that. You interview that person. Is someone going to pay you $20,000 for that person? So
in that case, you make sure that you ask the hard questions.
Absolutely.
Like why did you leave that last job? Oh,
why is there a gap in your resume?
Yeah, we have a conflict. I had a conflict with my boss. What is that conflict? Yeah. And get down and dirty. And after you do that, then you go and identify a list of places or hiring people that you think would be good.
Where you're going to market? What market are you going to put this candidate into, and then how are you going to go about it?
And then for that point, once you have that, and once you've gotten you've gotten the phone numbers that you've gotten through whatever source you use to get phone numbers, then after that, you do a phone interview. You call them up, and you call them up a couple of times, and then you try other tactics, email, text, what have you, to get in contact with them, to have that first initial conversation.
Correct.
And there are other people that do that, and they will start out with an email, or they'll start out with a text or something.
Yeah. There's no right or wrong way. It's the way I do it is different. Melanie's had very good success starting out with an email, right? I know recruiters that start out on LinkedIn. I mean, there's no right or wrong way. But my mind, and like when I did this, when you said to me, hey, we're marketing an MPC, this is how I market an MPC, right? And you can do it a million different ways. It's just how I've been trained and what's worked and successful for me. And that's why I said, please ask questions, bring your own information in, tell us what's worked for you or what doesn't work or why I'm wrong. I mean, I love to be told why I'm wrong. I mean, my wife does it all the time. Been married for almost 30 years. So yeah, we can talk about all that stuff. I mean, that's why we're here.
Okay, Cassandra, it's your turn. No questions.
If someone else want
to,
yeah,
part of the whole.
Here's a question.
Okay.
Here's a question. I'll make a question so I can talk to. Are you only doing MPC, or are you doing that alongside another campaign or other business development? What else are you doing alongside MPC?
So, yes, right. So, and again, depending on the person, depending on the industry. Like for me, and I don't want to come off too narcissistic, arrogant. I don't do that much business development anymore because I'm very entrenched in my niche, and I'll think about start doing some business development, and then I'll get 3 calls from clients and say, hey, we need this, this, and this, and then I move that to the back, right? Because I want to fill those positions, right? But I also realize that not doing business development is probably the worst thing, because what happens if my client gets hit by a bus tomorrow, right? So I think about that. So if I was to tomorrow just do what I'm supposed to do, it would be a mix of what Melanie Marshall does in the email campaign thing, a mix of the MPC calls and the mix of the assumptive opening, right? And again, I would only market I would probably only market an MPC if I knew I could place them for a fee. I probably wouldn't use that to open up a new market. Although if they were that good, I might, right? Like if I decided to go into, I don't know, bottle washing, right? And I had the #1 sales guy in the bottle washing industry. And he said, Tom, no one knows I want to make a change, but I want to make a change. And I want to move to California. Can you help me? Then I'll probably market that guy because I know I can get a fee for him. But if I'm going to really jump into an industry that is, and again, I'm going to jump into an industry probably that's allied to mine, like one industry over on either direction, or maybe a higher level within my industry, then I'm probably going to do the assumptive opening because I can talk very intelligently about that industry, answer a lot of questions, come off very confident, very, consultative. And that's what you want to do. In Melanie's case, she's doing a simple, we call it keep it simple, stupid marketing plan that really just makes the employers go, oh shit, well, yeah, I want to talk to you. And then she decides from the call from there, is it worth going on to the next level? A lot of times it's not, right? They don't want to pay the fees. They want us to work through talent acquisition or whatever the hell that's called and stuff like that, right? So, you can get a lot of traction in a marketing campaign similar to what Melanie's doing, but you're also going to kiss a lot of toads before you find that prince. But again, I guess that's with anything. That's with anything. Go ahead, Ernie.
So
I've never had anybody on a hiring manager call ask to see the resumes of the MPC I pitched.
But you got to remember, hers is really different. And we can talk about that in a second, what she does without any proprietary information going out. But go ahead, Ernie.
No, so Tom, what do you do similar to that, Tom?
Similar to what?
No, I'm asking Tom.
Tom Byrne. Oh, good. Yeah, because you're not a dinosaur like me,
Yeah.
Tom,
Yeah.
TB.
First of all, if I'm working with an MPC, I want to make sure they're a true MPC. And what I mean by that is when I got in this business many, many years ago, the training I received, probably similar to Tom, the candidate had to be realistic about compensation. They're not actively working with other recruiters. They're not on there was no job boards in 1988 when I got in this business. We didn't even have email. Okay.
Well, there was no phones.
We had those rotary phones.
No, we had the telegraph.
So
will you make a job case?
Yeah. So I made sure that they met the criteria of an MPC. And fast forward to today, I do very similar to what Tom does. I'll go into Sales Navigator. But first of all, when I'm talking to the candidate, I'm going to let them know what I'm going to do with them. I want to ask them, are there any particular companies that they want to be associated with, or they've heard good things about, but they have not contacted them directly? And they go, well, I don't know. Okay, well, what about industries? Are there any particular industries or domains that you have more interest in, or that you're most interested in? Are there some that you're not? If I'm not familiar with the company they're working with, or have been working for, I'll find out what that nature of that company is, and I'll look at direct competitors. And have you heard anything good, bad, or indifferent about these direct competitors? Okay. Now, I do IT, so sometimes industry sometimes plays a part, probably maybe only 20% of the time in a hiring manager's decision making, unless it's a business analyst or a project manager. We're looking for that functional domain knowledge. But if it's more of a technical role, they don't necessarily care whether they came out of hospitality, because they're a hospitality company. But I'll get information from the candidate. I'll put together my own list. I'll go into Sales Navigator. I'll put my own list together of companies, and I'll find out who the hiring managers are. What I typically like to do is I'll make a phone call like Tom does. I don't want to, if I'm in a position now where I still do recruiting, I still manage a recruiting team, but I'm helping my company with new business development. So I'm literally starting from scratch from a BD perspective and building out accounts and profiles and finding out who the decision makers are. So I'm going to make a phone call. 9 times out of 10, I'm leaving a voicemail message. So I got to make a decision. What do I want to say in that voicemail message? They don't know me. I don't know them. Go ahead.
Why 9 times out of 10 are you leaving a voicemail? Are you in your industry? Is it hard to get a hold of the hiring managers?
IT people are extremely busy, overworked, understaffed, and yes, 9 times. Here's the thing, Tom. Good question. In today's technology, they can see who you are in caller ID. So if they don't recognize your name or your company name, they're not going to pick it up. If they do recognize your company name or your name, they may not pick it up.
They're not going to pick it up.
Oh, that's a recruiter. I don't need a recruiter right now. I don't have time. So I look at, I got to make the decision. Do I want to leave a voicemail? Sometimes I'll leave a voicemail and I'll just make it very, very short and sweet. Tell them I'm working with a candidate, blah, blah, blah. I go into my little spiel. I make it short and sweet. And I let them know, by the way, I'm going to send an email to you. And I mention their email address to make sure I have the right email address. I put it in the voicemail. I'm going to send an email to johndoe@abc.com. I appreciate it if you have an opportunity, reply back to the email. And if I don't hear from you, I'll follow up with you at a later point.
Tom,
go ahead, Ernie.
Tom, TB. How low do you go? I mean, you see people, you go into LinkedIn. Do you go to the manager level? Do you go director, VP, owner? Where do you stop?
In my industry, depending on the size of the company, if it's a large enterprise company, Fortune 500 or more, I go to the line man, whoever the manager is, the director, and in some types the VP. CIO or CTO, probably not. I'll wait to see what kind of response if I get or reply I get from the direct managers that are hiring these type of people. Okay.
Do you check out if they have job vacancies, their website, before you go?
I do. I'll go to LinkedIn. I'll go to their job board. I'll go out and look at Indeed and some other little aggregates just to see what's going on out there. Now, if I do find a job opening and I get them on the phone, I don't tell them I saw your job. I don't want to, sometimes that can be looked upon as, this person's an ambulance chaser. And depending on that individual, I won't let them know. I'll just say, I'm not sure if you're actively looking to hire anyone, but here's so-and-so, and here's about their background, and I go into that. And sometimes they have an interest in that person. More than likely they don't, because the person may not fit that particular need. Now, again, I'm letting them know. I haven't let them know I saw their job opening. And even if I did see their job opening, Ernie, it doesn't mean my candidate matches up, because I deal in the technical area. So the technical skills may not line up to what that particular company is. But I'm not looking at, my approach is very similar to Tom's. I'm not looking at making a transaction. Do I want to make a placement? Absolutely. But I'm looking to get something out of that phone call, to find out more about, is this a company I would want to work with? Qualifying the company to determine if it's even worth my efforts.
And so after you make that call, and after you've done this and you've gotten nothing, do you follow up later on with that conversation?
Yeah, more than likely what I'll do is I'll put it probably in an outreach sequence campaign, which will have various touch points as well as different contact methods. As far as duration, I'll spread it out and I'll set it up as an MPC. I'm MPCing a particular candidate. But yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll have more than likely have it set up in an outreach campaign. If I don't have it set up in an outreach campaign, I'll have tasks set up on my calendar to follow up.
So now the other question is a niche. How important is that? There's some people that say, I do everything, and others say I do a niche. What's your thoughts on that? Everybody.
To say that you do everything, first of all, I don't work in any specific industry. I do IT and technical recruiting across all different types of industries, and the positions and roles are all across the IT organization. So my niche is my domain is IT or technology. My niche could be in the hospitality hotel sectors, industries, or it could be in a particular technology. Okay, trying to be a one to everyone, trying to be a one to everyone like a generalist. I can't do that. I don't have time to do that. I'm going to be, MPCing a bottle washer, and then over here I'm doing a CIO, and over here I'm doing this. I don't have the time to do that.
So when your cousin calls and says, "I have my brother that's in HR, can you help him?" What do you say?
I'm going to tell them I do not specialize. I don't work in that particular area, but I do know some people, and I may reach out and see if they might be able to help them. I also my company belongs to a formal network. I'll reach out to some people that specialize in HR.
And I also say I'll review his resume if needed.
Yeah.
I can help with stuff like that, and then I can give him a direction, right, to where he can go. Right, I can say, hey, go this direction or that direction. I wanted to comment on the niche real quick. Like, to me, there's you work this niche, right? Work, I guess, horizontal, right? You work, all these different industries, but front end developers, back end developers, Python developers, right? Across, it doesn't matter industry, right? And then you can work like this, right? Like I only work in structural engineering, right? And you place everything from engineering managers all the way down to the CAD operators, right? So I always feel like there's two ways you can do that. Like there are accounting recruiters who all they place is accountants, right? CPAs, it doesn't matter. In the manufacturing services, it doesn't matter, right? And then there's the generalist I've ever seen is someone who's like, I specialize in placing in Chicago, but not even Chicago, like a smaller town, Baltimore, right, or Annapolis, right? I'm a staffing agency in Annapolis. That would be the only generalist that I can think of today that can maybe get away with it. And you're doing lower fees, lots of blue collar labor type stuff. But in our industry, you gotta be able to say, I have placed hundreds of people who have front end developer Python backgrounds, or hundreds of people in the food manufacturing industry to have any credibility when you're trying to out there market yourself. At least that's anybody wants to, comment on that's my opinion. You need to be able to say that, and again, it's starting out, you fake it till you make it, or as if you watch Boiler Room, you fake it till you make it, as if of course I do all that. That's why I've been doing it for 25 years. Right. So, I think a niche is absolutely 100% important if you want to have longevity in this industry and you want to do the big numbers that we all want to do.
Does anybody else have any questions? I mean, Sandra, you got here. Can you hear me? No, probably not.
Yes. Hello. Hi.
There we go.
Do you have any questions? I mean, we talked a little bit earlier.
Yeah, actually, I do have a question. Is the approach similar for higher roles? Like I have, I'm working on a search right now, and one of the candidates, he's a high level, international VP of sales. His base is $240K. Is the approach the exact same that we talked? And I'll rewatch the replay, but would it be
marketing him?
Yeah,
you talk about marketing him. That's tough, at least to me, because those jobs usually aren't just open and they just won't hire. So like a lot of times I can get a guy hired, maybe they don't have an opening, but they'll, because my guy's so good, like in my industry, they'll hire him and then maybe they'll fire somebody down the road, or they'll just make a spot for him knowing that next year is going to be really good. I've tried to market some higher level people, and please, anybody who want to correct me, it's fine. It's tougher because you're like, how many people need that? Think about that title that person has. How many of those titles exist in your industry or in your niche? And then how many openings are there for that position, right? So that's kind of how you look at it, because that's one of those positions, like I said, that you're probably not going to get anybody to say, oh, yeah, we'll make a spot for this $240,000 executive level VP. That would be hard. I wouldn't not do it, but I would really, really focus on who could use this guy. Maybe they're in a transition. Maybe in your industry that they're currently looking to, the CEO is retiring and there's 3 VPs that are looking to take, like that. That's how I would go about that one. And maybe you could use it to open up doors. Maybe. But again, not my ideally not a great MPC. Tom, Ernie?
I have found that whenever I made a placement of that magnitude, it's usually because I know the company very well. I'm the only one that they're dealing with. And they probably have made it for 180. And all of a sudden, the gods have dropped this person at 240 and they're willing to buy him. But usually those I have found to be like on a retained level. And so you got to have those connections. And going with what Tom said, what Tom says is, you probably look at the jobs that are under 150, and you kind of look to see, is that a very popular one? When you're doing a lot of retained and things of that sort, you may, depending on your industry, like for mine, I'll look at managers and I'll look at supervisors, production supervisors, because they spit them in and out like crazy. So everybody's always looking for a second shift supervisor. So if I find one of those, that's gold. And then you hear somebody says, hell, I'll work third shift. And I'll go.
How many times do you hear they need a VP of operations though? That would be equivalent. It's few and far between.
The VP of operations comes after you've established a relationship and you're talking to people, and then they'll come back and say, hey, Sandra, we don't have anything for the bottle washer, but do you do VP of sales?
Absolutely, I do.
And then, yep. And then your answer is yes. And then you go like hell to figure out what they do.
Yeah.
I'm doing a CFO search right now, and I have 4 candidates who have all made it to the second round of interviews. The client said, he mentioned 2 guys, Mark and Tim, and he said, Mark and Tim are in 3rd place and 4th place, and I would hire both of them today if the other 2 candidates dropped out, right? So I got 4 rock star candidates, right? And they're all making $350,000, $400,000 packages. Do I market them? Where do I market a CFO to? Right? That's a hard way to go about, like, because you got to get a hold of the president, right, or the CEO. You have to. It's the only person that's going to be you're going to make a presentation to. It's hard enough to get a hold. Tom's got issues getting a hold of engineering managers at IT companies. Imagine trying to get a hold of Elon Musk or Bill Gates, or whoever the fuck the head guy is that does all the hiring for their executive level team. That's a hard uphill battle. Doesn't mean it can't be done. And there are probably guys at Heidrick & Struggles and Korn Ferry and Russell Reynolds that do it all the time, but they know their client base, they know who's getting promoted and who's doing what and who's going where, and can make those calls. I just don't. It's not my cup of tea, and I think I think I would struggle. I think I would probably fail miserably if I tried to market one of these guys within their industries. Are like one of the guys is in electrical contracting, the other guy is in some type of weird manufacturing. I think if I tried to jump in there and call the presidents of those competitors, I would fail miserably.
And Sandra, I think the other thing too is, in the back of your mind, you got to ask yourself, does this guy make more than the president of the company? And that is, many times they'll tell you, I can't give him that. And even on other jobs, like, the going rate for the production manager is X, and you have a supervisor say, well, he wants to get paid X, and they'll come back and tell you, well, we can't pay him that because all our other supervisors.
The plant manager's making.
Yeah, you're making more than the plant manager. And you're going, well, that's a problem. And you should probably pay everybody more because everybody else is, but they're not doing it, and they're not going to do it because you have a candidate, because the trickle effect of all that money going out, and they're perfectly fine paying, you know, 55,000 when the going rate for a supervisor is 70 to 80, but they have their 55,000 and they're not going to cut that model.
That's a good point too. Don't get lulled into writing a job order and be excited they paid your fee, they signed your fee agreement. Shit, they might even pay you a $3,000 engagement fee, but they're a shit company. They don't pay enough. Their benefits are horrible. You'll get caught up into that, and I tell you what, it'll kill you thinking, oh, I can fill this. I got one in New Jersey, no benefits, but they will give you cash to cover it, and it was only people I could get for them were people who were out of work. I could not recruit anyone out of a company to leave to go work for this company, and it was and I got a $5,000 retainer, and they bugged me weekly on that search, and I filled it, but man, it was not worth the $30,000 fee that I got. I worked a lot harder on that than I had any other $30,000 fee. So don't get caught into that too when you're marketing an MPC and you get, oh, I got a client's going to do this. No, be careful. Be careful what you ask for. You might get it.
What else you got? What other question? That was a good one.
Come on, guys.
What else?
I got some questions.
Go ahead, Zach.
Cool.
We love that. We love that.
Okay, so I'd like to dig a little deeper into the CFO thing you had just mentioned. So you're recruiting for a company that is a pretty high salary, and you have 4 candidates that are all incredible. So, or at least he said 2 of them were incredible. So when you recruited for this role, have you submitted these 4 candidates and all 4 of them right off, like these are your first 4 candidates you submitted and he liked them all? And the reason why I'm asking, or he or she, the reason why I'm asking that is I'd like to get like an idea, especially if you have like a new client, if it's better to submit candidates to get feelers, even if you know that, hey, in maybe my mind, I might think like not probably 100% or not probably like the ideal candidate, but I still want to get a sense. Or if you wait and you only submit candidates that you really know are like the top tier. And so yeah, I'd just like to get your experience, especially with the CFO role, because I'm recruiting for a role right now that's pretty senior as well, like in the 250 mark. And I got some feedback on 2 candidates that they're interviewing, but the feedback that I got was like, hey, like they're interesting, but here's some feedback before we've even interviewed them. So I want to get your take on that.
So I'll start off by saying any new job, you test a job order, right? Like new client, new job, you test a job order, you get one question, right? Like one candidate, get them in there and see what they think. That's like we talked about early on. Tom, you're probably trained the same way. It's called testing the job order. Now, this is a client of mine that I've made placements with for 2 decades, right? And I know very well inside and out. And when I took the job order, I had conversations with the CEO, the current CFO is retiring, the current VP of sales who was retiring, and the current engineering manager, right? All the head guys. So I knew what they were looking for probably better than they did. Like, because I got these guys alone. I mean, I took probably 2-3 hours over a period of a couple different calls and video chats, getting what they wanted for this search, right? So when I did that, no, they're retained. They're paying me $15,000 up front. 25% is going to be a friggin' $70,000 fee or whatever. And I went through and did the search. I pulled, because it's very, very, very narrow. They need a CFO with an MBA MBA would be nice, that also has their law degree, right? So yeah. It's there's only like 400 candidates in the US that fit like the thing, right? And I found 3 in Texas and 1 in New York, right? So I interviewed all 3, sent all 4 in, scheduled interviews for all 4. This was not a test a job order thing. This was, they understand I know what I'm doing and that they're paying me a lot of money. I'm going to get them. I'm going to do the search and say, this is what's available today. These are the 4 best candidates for this job right now. these are the 4 you're going to interview. They interviewed all 4, loved all 4. So it's a totally different search because it was not a new client. It was retained. It was very specific.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why it's different. Go ahead, Ernie.
So in the process of doing the 4 people, did you send one in or did you send all 4 in at the same time?
All 4 at the same time. Well, I sent Brent first because I hadn't fully interviewed the other 3, and I said, "This is Brent. Hold off because I'm going to get you 3 more guys. Once we get them in, we'll get interview scheduled."
Okay.
So but all 4 within a short time.
Okay. So Zach, going back to what you're saying, there's 2 categories of clients: your new ones and your existing ones. The big thing there is establishing your credibility. So if you're going to send a candidate that you're not totally in love with, one way of maybe doing that is to submit that candidate and say, "Here's a candidate. I wanted you to check him out. Tell me, give me some, let's talk and let's get some feedback." The key is communication. The key is that you're aware that's not what he wants or she wants, and then they will tell you what they're lacking or what they're not, and you're using it kind of as a tester. The second part, and probably the most important part of that, is how quickly do they get back to you if they're a new client. If they don't get back to you right away, then my assumption would be it's not a priority for them or something's wrong. And that being the case, you may want to back off from that client because that client may have come off great, but if they're not getting back to you, then that's fine. And some people say, well, that's why in those cases you would get some sort of a fee up front and get that. But just be aware that the fact that they're a client and they signed your paper and they gave you a job order, it's just the beginning of the journey. The real trick is the relationship. And if one thing you want to do is you got to have that hiring manager's mobile number. You gotta have hours when you can call them and then really test, are they getting back to you? And if they're not getting back to you, then that's somewhat of a red flag, maybe a yellow flag, but you gotta follow. Tom B, do you agree?
I do. I would. It depends. I do. It depends on the search. If it's a contingency search, and I know I have competition, as long as I had a candidate that was probably 85% meeting the job qualifications and criteria, the soft skills, that knowing what the hiring manager is wanting, I would submit them, but I would call first, get the hiring manager on the phone. I just tell them, look, I did find somebody. Here's what they have. Here's what they're lacking. But here's why I think this is somebody you should talk to. And I'm going to have my information in front of me. They've done this. They've done this. They've done this. Here's some of the accomplishments they have. Okay. Here's what their skills are. And I'll shut up and let the hiring manager tell me. They may say, yeah, but that's not what I'm paying you for. Or they may say, yeah, this sounds pretty good. Go ahead and send it over. I'll say, okay, I can do that. But hold on, I'll say I can do that. However, since I got you on the phone, where are you with this particular job? Do you have other candidates you're seriously considering? And if so, where are they interviewing in the interview process? Okay, because it may have been 2 or 3 days ago when I first took the job order, or a week ago. Some things could have changed. So we all know sometimes hiring managers, even if they've signed your fee agreement, will say, yeah, just send me the resume. I'll take a look at it. That is sometimes they may be serious and they will seriously look at the resume. Sometimes it's just brushing you off to get you off the phone. Okay.
And to keep you from recruiting their people.
And recruiting your people, yes. But what you said, Ernie, you're spot on. You want to try to build that relationship. Now, if it's an engaged search or a retained search, I'm not going to send that 80%, 85% person over. I may pick up the phone and call the hiring manager and say, hey, look, we're still identifying candidates. We're going through the vetting process, but here's somebody I came across. They don't meet all the criteria for the job, but let me tell you a bit about them. And I think why you might want to at least talk to this person. And they may go, hey, you know what? They don't have this or that, but I like the fact that they have this particular industry experience, or they have this other technology, which you mentioned they have this technology experience, Tom, and although we're not using that particular technology right now, that's something we have on our roadmap for the future. So if he or she has those skills and experience, they can really benefit us, not only short term or long term. And sometimes that happens.
The important part too is whether it be the candidate or whether it be the hiring manager, there are difficult questions that you don't want to know the answer to. Like, I just sent you a great candidate. Are there other people interviewing? Oh yeah, we got 3 people that are in their third, or they're coming on site tomorrow, and you're going, oh crap, and you don't want to know that, and you're praying that your gal's gonna like hit a home run and everybody jump, but they just made an offer. We have an offer. Oh, we filled that position, and you didn't tell me. And that
happens all the time, unfortunately.
All the time.
But you're not important to them. They're not going to say, oh, I need to call all my recruiters to let them know. Just like we don't call all the people we submitted and tell them, hey, I'm sorry what happened. And you should. Anybody you submit, you should go back and talk to them, because
or at least send them an email that says, hey, I'm sorry, but it didn't work out. I mean, you can set that up in Loxo as a simple, we call it a rejection email. Hey, sorry, things didn't work out. If anything happens in the future, we'll call you. I mean, it's as simple as that. I don't do it all the time, and I'm just as bad as everybody else. But yeah, I mean, that's.
And the reason you want to do that is because these people you haven't selected may go on to be your next client, and you want to keep it as nice as possible. And it's all a relationship game. And I had 2 people tell me this week. He goes, do me a favor, man. He goes, just call me back. Let me know what's going on. He goes, I submitted my resume to these people. Recruiters call me, and no one ever gets back to me. And that's your way of all it is just a simple phone call or an email or something. But you gotta kind of look at it's all your reputation. And I can tell you, it's kind of weird because my daughter went to a conference, and she works for Kroger. And she's talking to this guy, and she's a senior HR manager, and she's talking to this general manager there at one of their plants. And he says to her, and Kroger has, I think it's 500,000 people that work for them. And she's talking to this guy. And the guy tells her, I know your dad. She goes, what's your name? He goes, do you know this guy? She goes, yeah, his name is Ernie. My dad's name is Ernie. He goes, I know your dad. He talked to me. And so the food business, just like every other sector, is a small world. And you got to just kind of understand that. They know each other. So that would be just, I mean, it's the little things that separate the good from the bad, but it's a lot. I just found that sometimes I don't ask the right questions because I don't want to know the answer.
I want to know, or a yes. I want a yes or a no, and that's it. Anything else is, don't be afraid. I mean, I know we're all like, oh, you want to do this? Maybe we'll take it. Ask it, get it out of the way, and move on to the next one and deal with it. That's always been a thing that so many people don't want to know. You don't want to know what the answer to that question is. Ask it.
Yeah, and that's such a great point too, because then you're not wasting your time, right? Like you can put your effort somewhere else, right? If you know that they had a 3rd level interview with another candidate, well, you can be like, okay, I'll focus on something else. I don't remember who. I think it's Tom B. who had put I don't remember who, but the post-it, right? The priorities. No, it wasn't. I don't remember who it was. I binge watch all the calls almost, but yeah, you can just shift your focus essentially. So we shouldn't be scared. And I've wasted so much time. So yeah, it's important to ask those tough questions. Sure.
And after each time you touch base with a candidate, that I don't do it all the time, but you got to ask, is there anything that's changed since we last talked? And they go, oh yeah, I just got an interview. I got an offer. And you go, oh crap, because I know my person's going to go through three rounds, and they're not going to move it for anybody. I go, we lost them.
Hey guys, real quick, I'm gonna turn the streaming off, And Melanie and I got to shoot out for a call, but I'm going to leave the meeting going so you guys can continue to talk as long as you like. I'm going to put us on mute and whatever, but yeah, just keep going at it. But I'm turning let me real quick. Hey guys, thank you for attending. Who attended? And thanks for watching this. You know how to get a hold of all of us. Google us on LinkedIn, and we'll try and help you as you can. Have a great day. So I'm turning the streaming off now. And hold on a second here. Just turn off streaming. Manage streaming. Stop streaming. Okay, there we go. Stop streaming. Okay, so then